Yes, hello. We are the last session and the last episode of the Resilient Africa Week. Right now, we will be having a fire chat discussion with a very important guest uh, talking about your pitching your business online and what Resilient Africa entrepreneurs need to know. It's really a very pertinent topic at this point in time because you find out that getting your business online has become more important than ever before because of the current situation of the world. But however, it's very important for you also to learn how to pitch your business online. I mean, you can go talk about your business, in itself, with your own time, visit your client or your client visits you. But right now, it's a whole new environment. It requires a whole new skill set. It requires a whole new set of knowledge. And with us here, without wasting much time, we bring in our guest, Mr. David Beckett. David,
Hello.
how are you? I'm fine.
Doing
Thank you
good,
so
thank you.
much. Well done. So he will be joining us for this important session. And David, over to you to introduce yourself and tell us about yourself, why you started Best 3 Minutes, and what value does this provide, in the space of time now. Over to you, David.
Sure. So, I'm a pitch coach. I've been working with startups for the last few years. I've coached over 1,100 startups, and my job is to help people to tell their story in 1 minute, 3 minutes, 5 minutes. And the job is to, keep it short and make sure that you get to the essence of the story. So should we go to the presentation, Femi?
Yeah, yes. Before we go to the
Yep.
presentation, yes,
Yep.
okay, you can pop up the presentation. Yeah, we can go to presentation. Yes.
You see it all right?
Correct. Yes, I seen it now. Yes,
Okay.
I can see.
So, ladies and
So,
gentlemen, as I say, I'm pitch coach, and I believe that great ideas need a voice. And you've probably had that experience where you've got an idea inside you, you want to share that idea, but you just can't quite get it in a way that people understand it, that they go away and take the action that you want. So my goal is that everybody has the tools to be able to do this and share their story. Now, today I'm going to share with you three key aspects of presenting online. One of the problems with presenting online is that when you present face to face, you have, of course, what you say, the storyline, you use your voice, but you also use body language. You don't get to use that in online presentations because you're normally a thumbnail. You don't get to have too much eye contact because you don't have mutual eye contact. It's really difficult to communicate with people, especially a group of people online. And finally, you can't see and feel the audience. When you're in person, you can kind of sense, are they enjoying it? And on top of that, you have the tech challenges. So I'm going to walk you through a few of the main tech setup things that I think make a difference, some topics about how to build your pitch. And I've got one free resource for you, which you can use to build your pitch. And we'll talk about how your voice has a big impact. These are specifically for the things of presenting and pitching online. Then we can take some questions on general pitching later on. So first up, let's talk a bit about the technology. And first, I would say there's 4 or 5 things that make the biggest impact. It's not about using the tools. Of course, sometimes things like internet connection are a challenge and so on, but there's things that you can control. For example, the camera position. So I would look directly at the audience. If you're looking down on the audience, it gives a bit of an odd feeling. When we meet people face to face, we sit at an even level. We don't sit one higher than the other. So replicate that with your camera position and adjust to look at the camera if you possibly can. Next up is avoid backlight. Now, this is a challenge because quite a lot of us are presenting in places we wouldn't normally do work in, spare rooms or box rooms, or sometimes you have a big window behind you and you need to avoid that backlight so that they can see your face. So if you have that situation, draw the curtains, put the lights on, and get a desk lamp. and just shine that so that they can see your face clearly. They need to be able to see your facial expression. And the third thing is the background. So think about the message that you want to deliver. Here I've got a green screen. Sometimes I drop in a virtual background. Not everybody has that possibility. And in the other room, you see the background that is in this picture. Now, it's a little bit chaotic. In theory, books make you look clever, but in reality, it looks a bit chaotic. There's a crate there. It's not the best look. So think about what the message is that you want to communicate. Is it homely? Is it accessible? Is it professional? And do think about these virtual backgrounds that are available in things like Zoom, Microsoft Teams, WebEx, and so on. Now, this has quite a big influence because if there has a lot of stuff in the background, this can cause them not to focus on you and your story. And finally, the size of the face of the camera on the camera. I learned this just recently. So if you're afraid of the person in the middle of your Zoom call, you're not alone. Researchers say large faces in video meetings can trigger a fight or flee response. Let me show you what that looks like. It could look like this, which is pretty horrible. I don't enjoy looking at this myself, I must say. So if you have, sometimes people use their phones and they're very close up. So make sure that you replicate the situation when you're in face-to-face meetings. With face-to-face, we tend to look at the head and shoulders. That's a large part of what we see. So try to make sure that you have head and shoulders on camera. That gives you, if you adjust your camera so that you have a friendly appearance, it's more friendly to have head and shoulders. Then if you have any questions on this first technical part, then feel free to raise those questions. If not, we can move straight on. But if you have some questions, you can ask them in the chat. So if you have something, please raise that. Femi, if you have a question or you see a question, then just call it out.
Okay. No questions for now, but you can continue.
Okay. All right. So let's talk about the second part, which is the content. What are you going to pitch? And I think the starting point is always how do you create your storyline? And the first two things I would advise you to do is to think about who's the audience and what do they care about? And what's the objective? What do I want these people to do? So the first thing, the audience, and what do they care about? That's very different to what's the story that I want to tell. So try to make a little profile of your audience. What are they, theoretical or doers? Are they numbers people or creative people? Are they innovative, or do they just want something better than what they've got? What's their biggest objective? What kind of people are they, and what are they thinking about? And then side by side with that, what do you want these people to do as a result of your pitch? What action do you want them to take? Come and talk to you, go to your website, connect you to somebody, sign you a check. What would it be that you want them to do as a result of the pitch? Once you get those two things set, then think about the storyline. Now, how most people create the storyline is to open a computer and start typing into PowerPoint or Google Slides or whichever slide software you use. My advice is to put the software away and use it later once you've got your story straight. You see, when you're creating a story, you're in random mode. Your brain's in creative mode. And when we're in creative mode, we think very unorganized. We think, oh, I've got to tell about such and such last week. Oh, this customer told us, oh, and we're developing this in the next week. I must talk about that. And that doesn't work with PowerPoint. PowerPoint is very much slide 2, bullet point 1, slide 2, bullet point 2. It works in a different way to our brains. So we need to use PowerPoint when we've got the story straight. So let me suggest that you stop, don't open PowerPoint, and use a tool to capture your thoughts that really works, like your brain works, and that is Post-it notes. Use Post-it notes to build your storyline. Now, maybe you don't have Post-it notes to hand, or in your area there's no Post-it notes. That's okay. Get some paper and just tear it up into pieces, into squares about so big, and use those. But if you have Post-it notes to hand, then use those. Whatever works. The most important thing is to get your ideas out of your head. so that you brainstorm. You think, what's the problem we're solving, the solution we've created, and so on. I'll talk about the topics in just a second. And get everything out of your head, then organize your thoughts, build your storyline using post-it notes, and then you can build the beginning, the middle, and the end of your story. And that will help you to take a look at your thoughts, organize them, and then you can start building your pitch. So this will make it much easier. Then this is how it works. So you get the ideas out of your head, everything that you could possibly think of, the problem you're solving, solution you've created, what's unique, what's different about this idea. And then once you've got 20 or 30 ideas down, talk about your own enthusiasm, the team behind it, then take a step back. Think, who's the audience? What's the objective? How long have I got? And think, what are the big issues here? What should I talk about? And then build a storyline around chapter headings. Let me show you what this might look like. This is the rough brainstorm. And this looks rough, but if you look on the left-hand side, you'll see pain, product, demo, unique, traction, team, and so on. These are the typical pillars of an entrepreneurial pitch, of a startup pitch. And these will work for you too. The problem is if you have, say, a 3-minute pitch, you can't put all this information in. That's too much. So keep thinking, who's the audience? What's the objective? How long have I got? And choose which topics. And then decide which content we're going to talk about. So for example, the pain. I've got 11 things written down. I've got a 3-minute pitch. So maybe I should choose 3 big things about the problem we're solving. And I've got unique. I've got 7 things written down, but I've only got 3 minutes. So let's talk about 1 or 2 things about what's unique. And ideally, you build a storyline that looks a bit like this. What you see here, the orange post-it notes are the chapter headings, the pillars of the content, and the next part, the yellow post-it, is the content about that chapter heading. And build the storyline so you can see a beginning, middle, and end. Now, this will save you a lot of time. If you try to jam your thoughts straight into PowerPoint, it doesn't really work. This way, you can quickly get your ideas out, quickly organize them, build the storyline, and then you can build your slides based on this storyline. That will save you a lot of time. And what topics should be in your winning talk, your winning pitch? Well, the tool I've created is the pitch canvas. You can download that free at best3minutes.com. And this is a 1-pager. It's 11 pieces of content. And it's not that you should put every bit of these content into every pitch, not at all. But this is the brainstorm part. Think it through, think through those 11 things, and then narrow it down to the key topics that work for this audience, this objective, and this length of time. But the pitch canvas will help you with brainstorming in preparation for an investor meeting. If you have a 1-hour meeting, these are the topics to talk about. So the pitch canvas will help you. It's your brainstorming tool. And if you need a bit more information about this, I have one YouTube video that's been seen quite a bit. I have plenty of videos that have been seen 100 times or 300 times, not so many times, but this one's been seen about 400,000 times. And it's a bit old, it's 4 years old, but basically you'll get the input of my methodology about what to talk about and how to structure the pitch. So this gives you a little bit more. What I'm also going to do is give you this link. Feel free to take a photograph. This is completely free. There's a pitch workshop. It's about half an hour of video broken into 12 chapters. And this goes into more detail about audience, objective, build your story with post-its. And then it also talks about how you open the pitch, how you close the pitch, make sure there's a key message for your audience. So this is completely free for you. So I'll share this link for you again at the end of the presentation. So do you have any questions about building your pitch? Do you have any questions, Femi, or if you see any questions,
yes,
then you guys are very welcome to ask. Yep.
Can you see the question on the screen?
No, maybe you can just read it for me.
Okay. It said, have you found mind mapping to be effective? Mind mapping to be effective.
Yeah, so I'm familiar with mind mapping. Personally, what I find with mind mapping is there's always a set of software tools. So if you try to do it digitally with the computer, you always get caught up with the software. However, if it's just drawing stuff on paper, I'm a big fan of that. Anything that gets the thoughts out of your head so that you can organize them, if that helps you organize, that's a good way to do it. The good thing with Post-its is you can move things around very easily. So actually Post-its are just a form of mind mapping. You get all your thoughts out and then you organize them. So mind mapping works. I'm not a big fan of mind mapping software, but if there's a software that you use really regularly, that can work very well for you, for sure. But don't get caught up in software tools. Just get the stuff down on paper.
Okay, so someone said, is there a need to keep changing the business plan from your pitch deck? Is it okay to use your business plan to talk your idea to your business even though it's long? So I think this person has already concluded a business plan, and
yes,
he needs to understand whether talking through the business plan is the right thing, or he needs to still go and distill that business plan into a smaller document. Maybe that you might explain that in the course of your discussion.
Yeah, so I think there's two phases you go into. There's the door opening pitch, and then there's the meeting pitch. So the door opening pitch would be, say, at an event, maybe there's 10 startups pitching, and you've got 3 minutes. There, I think that's very different to the business plan. That's really the essence of the story. So I would redo it. I would really think about the essential pieces of the story. You have about 420 words in a 3-minute pitch. So there's really no time to go through all the details of the business plan. So problem, solution, what's unique, why I believe this matters, and so on. Now, when does the business plan work? If you get a 1-hour meeting with an investor, you can start with a short reminder pitch. So just to remind you, this is who we are, this is what we do, this is what we're solving, what we've achieved. Then you can ask them, so which bits of our business are you most interested in? Do you want to know more about the product, about the market, about our team, about what is it you want to know? And they'll tell you. And then you can use your business plan as the support for answering those questions. So build a presentation on all the different aspects of your business plan. So a 1-hour meeting is more in-depth. It's about looking at the detail. But a 3-minute pitch, it's really different. You just need to get the essence. So try to split this into what are they asking for. If they ask for a 3-minute pitch, give them the headlines. If they want a 1-hour meeting, be ready to give them more detail.
Okay, if someone is asking, thanks, David. That is Gloria Momo. Is there a guide on dress code for online pitches? Is there a guide on dress code? Do you have to dress like you are going to an office or meeting, and you have to dress casually? So just wanted to know on that too.
Sure. So take a look at my dress. I'm probably not the best person to answer. It's interesting. My 7-year-old daughter has suddenly, in the last 2 months, developed a dress sense. So I'm starting to learn. Now, I think this is very culturally relevant. You have to tune into what are they expecting, and I think in general, the two things that matter is, do you feel comfortable, and what are they expecting? Meaning the people I'm meeting with. So if you're going to a fancy office where people are wearing suits, you might want to think about wearing something smart. However, should you wear a suit? Yeah, if you wear a suit every day, then maybe you should, because you'll feel comfortable in it. If you never wear a suit normally, and then on this one day you think, maybe I should wear a suit, it will look weird. You can see if somebody doesn't normally wear one and then they are, it feels uncomfortable. You don't feel natural. So you don't have to wear a suit to be smart. You can be on the smart side of casual. And in general, the starting point is, what do I feel comfortable in? One of the reasons why I wear a black t-shirt is I feel comfortable in it. I wore a suit and tie for 16 years in a corporate job. I decided I'm going to feel comfortable in my workshops. I get hot. I put a lot of energy into my workshops. I don't want to be worried about sweating or getting too hot. A black t-shirt's a good solution. So that's why I do that. And I think the most important thing is feel comfortable, but equally respect the other people and dress sort of in line with what they're expecting.
Okay, thank you. So let's go back on.
All right.
Those are the only questions for now.
Yep. So let's go through to the last part, which is the voice. And the voice has a big impact on online presenting. You have actually most effect with your voice, because when we're presenting face to face, you have body language, you have your gestures. There's much more physical connection in terms of the non-verbal stuff, and you just don't have that now. So you're reliant on really good story. You're always reliant on a good storyline, on good content. But on top of that, your voice. You need to put energy and focus into the key words that matter. And the task is to guide them on what do you want them to think and feel. And especially online, that's important. And that's really difficult because you're presenting to a camera. Sometimes you have a group of people, so you've got a bunch of people, but you can't really focus on that audience. You have to focus on your presentation. So you've got to put your energy into the voice. So how do we do that? Well, let me show you how it works, how we put energy and focus on things to change the meaning of sentences. So when you have a coffee with a friend, you put energy into stuff without even thinking. So let me give you an example. So I could tell you this sentence. This is a sentence I've memorized, and I can tell you, Anthony said that his boss did not commit a fraudulent act. And I've shared that information with you, and now you have it. But I haven't guided you what you should think and feel. I haven't asked you to think and feel anything about it. So now let me give you it in a different way. I could say to you, Anthony said that his boss did not commit a fraudulent act. Yeah, he said he didn't do it, but probably he did, right? So there's a meaning in the way that I say it. Then I could say, Anthony said that his boss did not commit a fraudulent act. Well, and the meaning there is it wasn't his boss, it was somebody else's boss. That's a really different meaning to the first one. The third way I could say this is Anthony said that his boss did not commit a fraudulent act. He simply didn't do it. Doesn't matter whether anything happened, it wasn't his boss. His boss did not do it. And finally, I could say that Anthony said that his boss did commit a fraudulent act, ... but probably he was on the edge, right? Now, every way that you say this changes the meaning. So what does that mean for you? When you're building your pitch, especially if you have, say, a 3-minute pitch, then make a script, write everything out, go through the text and think which words change the meaning, which words count here, and make sure that you practice by putting energy and emphasis on those words so that you guide people what to think and feel. And this makes a lot of difference. This is actually an exercise that I learned from my wife. My wife is a trained voice actor. That's for doing voiceovers for movies, for animations, for advertising. And this is how they train them to put energy and emphasis into the right words. You find the words that change the meaning and put more focus on them. Then the way to do that is to say everything out loud. You have to verbalize, say things out loud. You can't do this in your head. It doesn't work. So you have to say it out loud and hear yourself. And even better, and this is something that nobody really likes, you can improve your voice by recording yourself presenting. Nobody likes listening to themselves recorded. It's not something that is people's favorite thing in the world. But this is a way of massively improving the quality of your presentations. When you record yourself, you're able to then listen back. You have to listen, not do I like it, but more, how does this sound? Is it coming across in the right way? Am I putting energy and focus on the key words? And listen back to it. Try to improve the things that you see. Okay, I think this bit's not going so well, and this will help you raise the quality. And finally, when you're presenting online, consider standing up. It really works. You get more energy. Again, my wife's training as a voice actor. They always have you record your voiceover standing up because you have a bit more energy when you're doing that. So the voice really has a big impact. If you have any more questions about pitching or the voice or anything that we've presented so far. You see any questions, Femi? All clear. So guys, there's four key there's the key aspects of presenting online: technology, content, and voice. And I want to share with you some pitch tools and resources, but just remember the camera height.
Oh, sorry, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Oh, sorry. So I was saying that someone said is using a joke recommended as an opener, like cracking a joke, just to open, to break the ice. Is that recommended?
Cool. So it's really tricky, this one. The answer is yes, but it's one of my least favorite answers to any question is when someone says yes, but. So in this case, it's true. Making anybody smile in any pitch, in any presentation, it's always good. It just is. People like to smile. They feel warm. They connect with you. The danger is if it goes wrong. So my advice is to use jokes that work. So let me give you a very simple example. Right now, if I was going to America, I would be quite tempted to make a joke about Trump, but you just don't know how the audience will react. I have no idea. Yeah. Do they like Trump? They not like Trump? So if you make a joke about that, you could really get it wrong, and actually it can turn the audience against you. So my advice would be normally make a joke that is more like a little bit at your own expense. So it's a bit targeted towards you. In my workshops, when I'm doing longer workshops, I show a picture of myself from 1992 and I make a joke about it, and it's kind of fun and people always smile, and that sort of works. So try to do something which is a bit focused at yourself rather than at a target, and test it. If you're going to do it at an important event, don't tell a joke that you haven't told before that hasn't worked. I would always check, does it work, and then share it.
So another question, someone's saying, when your client is asking you to send your presentation a day ahead, is this safe?
Yeah, it really depends, but I think one thing to bear in mind is that very few people ever open presentations sent in advance. About 95% of presentations sent in advance are ever read. And the problem is, if you have a group of people, say 10 people in a presentation, and you send it to those 10 people, 3 of them will read it, 2 of them will scan through it, a couple of them will open it and then close it, and 3 won't read it at all. And your problem is, what do? Do you assume that people have read it or not? Yeah, so it's really tricky. So my advice is generally try to avoid sending in advance. And if you do, then don't assume that anybody has read anything, because almost certainly most of the people won't have done. Then I would stick to telling the story as if nobody's read it. There is a tool called DocSend. Of course, it costs money, and everything, every penny counts. But there's a tool called DocSend, which controls the document. They can't download it. They can only read it within the platform. You get data on who's read it, how much of it they've read. So that could be worth having a look at. It's DocSend.
Okay, one more question before you continue. Someone is asking, how can you best understand non-verbal cues from your audience so that you ensure you are connecting effectively?
So I think this is, it depends on the situation. If you have a 3-minute pitch, I basically wouldn't even recommend trying to pick up the non-verbal cues from the audience. So if you're presenting to a group of people, have a 3-minute pitch, I would just make that pitch. Prepare, practice, deliver. If you have a meeting, say 1 or 2 people, let's take the online situation. The online situation is really tricky because it's quite difficult to get those cues. then my advice is make sure that you keep asking questions, that you stop. So you've noticed I built in some question and answer moments in this. That's because I read research that says in every online presentation, you need something for the audience every 8 minutes. And the number one way to create engagement is question and answer. So if you have an audience you're presenting, then include question and answer along the way, not always wait until the end. And secondly, ask them questions. Do a short part of your presentation and ask them, does this make sense? Is this working for you? Is there something that you're missing so far? What else would you like to know about? And check in with them, find out what's on their mind, and have a little bit of a flexible approach to your presentation so that you could jump to a different piece or a different piece. If they say, oh, actually, the main thing I'm interested in is such and such, then you can jump to that piece. Yeah.
Okay, so you can continue. We've taken some of questions. We still have more, but let's continue for now.
Okay, I'll wrap up with some tools. I've got a couple of things for you for free, and that is there's my online pitch workshop, and as I say, this is a short version. Now I have a longer version, a masterclass, and if you do this and you think you need more information, then you'll get more information. You can check it out. But this I'd like to give you for free. And as I say, it's about 30 minutes of video, and it's broken up into 12 chapters. So this link will give you access to this course. And everything's short and sweet, and it will give you the basics to get started with building your pitch. You know, if you do this workshop, you can build a good pitch, that's for sure. And I also have a free app. It's called Pitch Professional. It's on iOS and Android. And if you search in your app store, then you can find it. And there you'll find some pitch tips. You'll find some explanation of the pitch canvas, and you'll find some example pitches as well. So there's plenty of useful information in there. That's completely free. It's called Pitch Professional. And to wrap up the presentation, do connect with me on LinkedIn if that's what you're using. I'm more than happy to connect with you on LinkedIn, and happy to answer any more questions. But for now, that's the end of my presentation. And so I'll come back to you, Femi.
Okay, great. Can you hear me now? Can you see me?
I can hear you very well.
Okay, great. So we take some more questions. Can you see the screen? Okay. Someone is asking, can a short story about something relating to your pitch be used as an icebreaker? Maybe a short story. Storytelling is an interesting one, because in a pitch, it's really difficult to tell any kind of length of story. But I think a short story can be, for example, a day in the life of a certain customer. So, imagine customer walks to the counter of a chemist. They're expecting to get drugs that they've been prescribed by the doctor. But the person behind the counter says, I'm sorry, I can't deliver it. Why? Because it's in pre-authorization. And what follows is 72 hours of calling the doctor, trying to get agreement. It takes them 30 calls, 20 emails. That's a story that puts a person in the problem that you're solving. So some kind of a story can really help. Also, your own personal connection. Maybe you can say, so what I experienced 3 years ago is such and such. I found this was so frustrating. And what I learned is there's thousands of people like me. That's another way to introduce your pitch. So it definitely works to have some kind of a story. Okay, just wanted to ask this. Sometimes you're trying to run an online pitch with your co-founder. Maybe you are two of you trying to make a presentation. What are the preparation guidelines do you expect both parties to have? So they're presenting online together as a team, maybe 2 or 3. What do you expect them to do in terms of asking questions or answering questions? Who should take the lead? Who should be the backup? And so that they don't look disjointed, that they don't sound they're not coordinated to the audience or to their investors?
Yeah, I think definitely the challenge is to make sure that the handover points are clear. So which part of the topic are you going to talk about? Which thing are you going to speak about? And making decisions in advance. You know, you're going to talk about the problem, the product, and the traction. I'm going to talk about the team, our motivation, and what we need to make it happen, for example. So make decisions about who's going to talk about which blocks, and that will really help in making it clear. Because that dual, you know, in general, I would recommend one person, but sometimes it's good, especially in a longer presentation, to have two voices. That gives the feeling of the team. But do prepare yourselves for who's going to talk about what. And also when they come to questions, you know, if they have a technical question, who's going to answer it? If they have a business question, who's going to answer it? And try to split that up and make decisions in advance. Especially for important meetings, you really want to a little bit practice that run through and make sure that it works.
Okay. Another question saying, sometimes when getting ready to present the pitch, nerves kick in, and the best preparation can end badly due to nervousness. How do you recover from that when 3 minutes is all you got? When you're nervous, how do you prepare so that you don't get nervous and things?
Yeah, the best thing to do is to prepare so that it doesn't happen. But you know, so the first thing is organizing the story, getting certain of your story. But sometimes that's not enough. You know, people who are very good at creating presentations, but they still feel overwhelmed. So that's firstly, you're not on your own, as most people are afraid of public speaking. I think the first thing to say is don't expect to have no nerves. You know, it's not bad to have nerves. Being a bit nervous is okay. And so what that does is it gets us focused, it keeps us on our toes, and we do the work to prepare. But here's a couple of things that can help you manage your nerves. The first thing is get the first 60 seconds rock solid. The first 5, 6, 7 sentences, so you say them out loud again and again, so that when you're in front of the audience, it's the most natural thing in the world to present. So that will avoid nerves in the first place. If you get the first minute right, the rest will be fine. That's the same for a longer presentation, by the way. Works for a 20-minute presentation, for a 3-minute pitch. That's the first thing. Secondly, this sounds a bit nuts, but have a look at a TEDx talk by a lady called Amy Cuddy. It's AMYCUDDY, Amy Cuddy. And it's the second most watched TED talk ever. And she talked about power poses. So I'm gonna just show you. So if you put your hands on your hips like this, and you stand for 2 minutes or more with your hands on your hips, you get something happens in your body, and you get a feeling of more power and less stress. And there's some science behind it. Some of the science has been a bit challenged, but basically I've tried this, and man, does that work. And if you combine it with breathing while you're waiting, this really works. So, for example, if you're presenting in front of an audience, just stand at the side, put your hands on your hips for 2 or 3 minutes before you go up, and just breathe. And have that first 60 seconds in mind. This combination will mean you're almost certain to control your nerves.
Okay, what about when you expected to meet only one person in a session, and you are now meeting like 3, a board of directors.
Yeah.
But so your audience changed drastically, and you didn't prepare for that audience. So someone said, "Can we come and have a chat here?" And the next thing, the CEO of the firm walks in, but you're not prepared, and you also know you won't have any other time to meet the CEO again. How do you prepare for that? You prepared, but your audience was now more than what you prepared for.
Yeah. So I think the first thing to do is be honest and say, okay, ladies and gentlemen, I have prepared for this meeting. I'm delighted that you guys are here. And I would definitely try to get into some conversation and find out what they're interested in. So keep your presentation, don't add more details. If anything, keep it short, and then ask. So delighted that you're here. What's on your mind? What would you like to know more about? See, we think that if we're given a 1 hour meeting, maybe we need a 50-minute presentation, but nobody likes to listen to really long presentations. They want their questions answered. That's the starting point of anybody. They want their questions answered, not to be presented to. So what they want is to get the essence of the story and then to tell you what's on their mind so you can answer it. So try and keep it short. If you had a 1 hour meeting, prepare a 5-minute pitch. Give them a 5-minute presentation and then answer, okay, we have a lot more information. What would you like to know? I think especially if you have new people in the audience, you get more people join the meeting than expected. I think that works perfectly well, because then you can find out what's on their mind and respond to their specific interests, what they want to know.
Okay, someone is asking, is it better to write up the business plan before the pitch, or just to discover the most important element of your story?
Well, I think it can actually go the opposite way. So my experience is that people learn a lot by having to tell their story in a short way. They find the essence of their story, and sometimes they find that when they're developing their pitch, they realize the problem they're solving is different to what they thought they were solving. So I personally think it's harder to write a short pitch than it is to write a longer business plan. Of course, it's more time, but to get the words right and to get down to the essence of the story, it can be more challenging to get the 3-minute pitch. So my feeling is either way will work, but if I had to put my money on a good starting point, I would get the Post-its out, get the pitch canvas, and start getting your ideas down. And that will be the basis for your business plan. That will help you get the business plan together a lot quicker, actually.
Okay, thank you. One more question. This is for me. If you find yourself as somebody, maybe you met somebody in a conference, and you've been hoping to meet this entrepreneur or this investor, but you don't have a pitch to say, how can you have what you call a follow-on discussion that can lead to a meeting to now have the pitch? You don't have the pitch yet ready, but you want to be able to create some sense of importance that the investor can say, okay, can we have a meeting, David? Okay, yes. Can you come to my office? Can we secure that appointment? Yeah.
So I think the biggest advice I heard is to think in the world of the investor. So what we tend to do is think in the world of, what am I doing? What am I working on? When you think in the world of the investor is looking a couple of levels away from what we're doing. They're looking at big trends. They're looking at big opportunities. They're looking for what's changing in the world. And I think if you don't have a very clear pitch to start off with, what you can do is always have some kind of message about the problem you're solving and how big that problem is, and why it matters now.
Okay.
And I think those 3 things: the problem you solve, how big it is, and why it matters now, are 3 things to always have ready to tell anyone, because the investors are really looking at things in a different way. They don't know whether you're going to be successful, but they might know, for example, the kind of area that you're working in. There's maybe 100 startups working in that area, and one of them is going to win. Maybe you could be that one. But if you're the only startup working in that particular area, because it's a niche market, it's not very big, it's probably not very interesting for them. So we think sometimes that competition is bad, that's threatening. Competition's good. That's because that proves there's a market. So I would just really try to think in the world of the investor What are they looking for? Big trends, big opportunities. You know that there was a film called, actually I can't even remember the name of it, but it was about the investors from the 60s who invested in Apple and Cisco and all these kind of companies. And this guy who was in his 80s, they said to him, how did you make a decision about whether you should pursue this investment? And he said, we took a look at the numbers in the back of the business plan, and if they were big enough, we looked at the front to find out what kind of business it was. And I thought there's something in that. They're looking for big opportunities, not products. So think about how can you position your opportunity.
So another question is, how do you manage rejection? So there's a fatigue every entrepreneur goes through. So after making the 49th pitch, the 50th pitch, the 59th pitch, and you're still hearing no. What do you think? Do you think the entrepreneur should look at the business again and say, I've been hearing no's all along, and when I now have an opportunity to speak to another investor, how do I summon courage for that, all the rejections I've always gotten, and now move to still give a decent pitch again, as if I'm giving the pitch for the very first time again?
So I think the task, firstly, there's a persistence that needs to happen. You know, and just because you get no, and even 50 no's, doesn't mean you won't get a yes on the 51st time. And most of the startups that I speak to who have been funded, they had, more than 20 meetings. And you know, even startups that raised 1.5 million, 2 million, they had 20, 30, 40 no's before they got a yes. So just because you're getting no doesn't mean it's not working. However, listen out for why they're saying no. Try to get as much feedback as possible. And ask yourself, is that something we can do something about? And sometimes what you find with investors is they tell you no, and they say, because of this, this, and this. And in 6 months' time, you go back and you say, you said no because of this, this, and this, but now we fixed that. Are you interested? And I know startups that have had success as a result of addressing specifically the objections from the investor. So don't be afraid to keep recycling their feedback either into the pitch or into your business, and try to address that stuff. So that, you know, and keep going. Don't give up. Just don't give up. Believe in what you're doing.
Okay, there's another question. This is for me. I'm yet to get more questions on the chat box. And issues on confidentiality. Over my period as a consultant, I'm always a bit flattered or a bit angry that, you know, you want to discuss with me about an opportunity I should invest in, and you're also telling me I need to sign a non-confidential agreement. But I'm an investor. I listen to pitches. I listen to opportunities every day. And sometimes I get put off when entrepreneurs ask me for confidentiality. I'm like, okay, you know what? Maybe another time, I can't guarantee that I'll be confidential, because you may have an idea and the next person I speak to might come with the same idea. So it might not be my fault that I disclosed what you were telling to me about. So how do entrepreneurs handle issue of confidentiality in respect to seeking funding? Should they be more cautious, or say, you know what, let me just be as open as I can, it doesn't really matter?
So I think my view on this is, no matter how original we really think our ideas are, there's not many really unique ideas that are that are worth being that controlled about. And the only way to get traction is to start talking about your idea, telling people, and being open. And you worry that somebody will copy it, but you've got to have that speed and belief that you can get there first. So, you know, the companies like Airbnb and all those big companies, they weren't the only Airbnb was not the first company to build that kind of idea, but they were the fastest to get to a product market fit, fastest to scale, and fastest to build it. So you want to, it's really about speed. It's not about protecting your idea. If you protect your idea, people won't go for it. They won't jump on it. And unless you've really got a piece of technology which is patented, which is really unique, but that's so rare. It's really, if I think about it, I've seen thousands of startup ideas. I've coached more than 1,100 startups in the last years. If I had to name the companies that really had a technology that they couldn't speak about, I can't think of one, actually. I literally can't think of one. There were some that had technology, but they patented it. And then they went out and told the world. So my view is get the story out there and move fast. And, people think, oh, but they'll copy it. Yeah. Then if they can copy it, then just go faster. Yeah.
Then someone's asking, Jabo is saying, how many times or percentage of time do investors make a decision just off the pitch? So I think he's trying to say that when you've pitched once and they say they like it, they're okay, what do you do after? Do you go especially now that you're pitching online, do you go reminding them, oh, when are you paying, or when are you investing, or do you need to pitch again? Maybe you need to give a bit of more time and watch their body language to know when exactly these will be, let me use the word, okay to start calling for your needs or your demands, so to say.
Sure. So I think the starting point is that a pitch is not a decision maker, it's a door opener. So firstly, if you have a 3-minute pitch and you're at an event and someone shows interest, that's simply the first step of the journey. But nothing happens without a good pitch. So you can't get through the door without a good pitch. Once you have a pitch, you can get through the door, but they make decisions on a whole range of different things. And it's a lot to do with the team. Who are the people? Do we have a good feeling? There's investors now that I know who are, they like to get to meet the people. They can't meet them face to face. So they're doing what they call 360-degree feedback. They're asking people that have worked with them, that have been customers, have been suppliers. They're doing all kinds of due diligence around their network. So investors make slow and careful, considered decisions. They don't decide on a pitch. It's very rare that happens. Then should you keep following up?
Okay. No, can you remove your presentation? Is your presentation just still up?
Yeah.
Okay, can you exit it entirely? Yeah. Okay, because I think it's affecting the sound a bit. Go ahead.
Sure. So then should you keep following up? The answer is always. Just keep following up. Don't be afraid to call, chase, and of course it's so. But in the end, you need a yes or a no. You don't need a maybe. So keep going until you've got one of those, yes or no, because maybe's no use to anyone. That takes time and wastes a lot of time. Yeah.
Okay, great. So I think we have exhausted all the questions, and I think I've also asked mine. Just a final recap before we end. So typically you find African entrepreneurs having to raise funding. What about when you want to sell a product? So let's talk about pitching to sell. So sometimes you call a customer, maybe a lead of yours or a previous customer. Are there any differences in the pitching process of making a sale rather than making an investment?
Well, I think there's a lot of similarity. So if you think to make a good sale, you need to communicate what's the problem you're solving, what's the product, how does the product work? So demonstrating it, what's unique about the product, show who's already buying that product, to build credibility. These are all things which you would put in a startup pitch. I think they're also things that you would put in a customer pitch. And once you get to that stage, in a startup pitch, you might talk about the business model, for example. That's not relevant for customers. In a startup pitch, you might talk about the team and the individuals. I'm not sure customers are so interested. What they want to know is, do you have the skills in your company that will make me successful? And I think that's a very different thing. Whereas an investor pitch, they want to know about, Bill and Jill and John. They want to know who these people are and what makes them tick. But customers, they couldn't care less. They just want the job done.
Exactly.
Developers, have you got the right supporting people, project manager? What do you have in your company that's going to make me look good? That's a customer's perspective. And then I think keeping the process moving. What's the next step? So with an investor, you're asking for investment, but with a customer, it's okay. So what would be a good next step? Can we do a feasibility study? Should we have a follow-up meeting with these two people in your organization? Keep the process running so that they're moving further down that sales funnel, and give them something they can say yes to, so that it's not too big an ask at the end of the talk, but take them to the next step. So you're getting closer to the yes. And when you've been in that process for 4, 5, 6 meetings, get them to a point where they have to say yes or no. Because at a certain moment, next steps don't matter. A signature does.
Correct. Correct.
Yeah.
So what about to a CEO trying to address his staff members? Well, you may not call that a pitch, but maybe like a presentation you're just making to your staff in a COVID-19 scenario to motivate them and things. Are there any differences you need to also pitch in that situation from your experience?
Yeah, actually, I've been on the other side of those kind of talks. So 9 years ago, my job moved from Amsterdam to London, and I decided I wanted to stay in Amsterdam. So effectively, they had to communicate to us that we were losing our jobs. And honestly, they made a real mess of it. And most companies do. It's just difficult. You've got to give people sometimes bad news. You've got to communicate. There's uncertainty. And people don't want their staff to be uncertain. They want to be friendly. They want to be kind. But I think honesty, empathy, if you look at some of the leaders that have been successful in COVID times, those leaders have been the ones who are clear, honest, and direct. The ones who are not successful, so actually you can say Boris Johnson, Donald Trump. The fact is these are not successful leaders because they're not honest. They don't deal with the problem. They keep trying to tell people everything's okay, but it's not. And so I think you need to be very clear on what the actual problems are that you're facing, be honest and have clarity on it, make clear what the next steps are. So having a plan and, again, being open to answer questions and not avoiding topics. When I've experienced the other side of it, when I've been on a period where there's been, 230 out of 700 people being laid off, the company didn't deal with those things. And I spoke to loads of people and they all told me, I don't care about getting bad news. I just want to know what's going to happen. If I have bad news, I've got something to deal with. And I think, companies think, but if I give them bad news, they'll be unhappy. Yeah, okay, they're going to be unhappy anyway. Tell them what the situation is. Be clear, honest, empathetic, and take their questions. I think these are the things for leaders right now.
Okay. Thank you so much for this. It's really been a wonderful time and period. I would just like to say thank you for all your contributions. I mean, we've had all the questions answered now. It's been a very wonderful discussion. And we really, I'm really grateful for the insight you've given. One of the lessons I learned also was the fact that you don't say no, you keep on, striving, able to put an
Absolutely.
assembled panelist in this session, took me talking to over like 100 people. I got rejected, but I still got some people on board. Thank you once again, Mr. David. I just wanted to give a last and final word to entrepreneurs, who are going through COVID-19, and what you think they can do to keep, pitching their businesses online, and what kind of investments can they make in maybe software or tools? I know you've mentioned a number of them, but just as a final word before we move, we end the actual session. Thank you.
Yeah, I think in terms of tools and software and so on, things like Zoom are really great. And of course, there's security issues, but they fixed most of those security issues. So Zoom's pretty great. Having an external microphone, if you have an older computer, an external microphone can work well. You don't need an expensive one. Something for like $20, $30 will be better than most microphones from, let's say, more than 2 years. Most computers from more than 2 years old. So you don't have to spend a lot of money, but especially just things like lighting that can make a massive difference to the whole thing. The background, the level of the camera, these are the things. So you don't need to invest a lot of money. I think just make sure that they can see you and that you prepare yourself and you share your passion and your certainty for the idea that you have and the business that you're building. These are the most important things, and people can see you, they can hear you clearly, then the rest will fall in place. And just be professional, be organized, and give it your personal passion.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mr. David Beckett, and thank you. Please see the inscription on the link below. We can continue having this discussion. In case you have further contributions, please kindly follow our LinkedIn forum group on LinkedIn. The link has been put on the video. You can always look at it and also try and join the forum to ask questions and make comments after this meeting. Thank you so much, Mr. Beckett, and have a good day. Thank you so much. Thank you. So right now, we are done with the Resilient Africa Week. Thank you all our viewers. Thank you all our partners from DLHQ to Grow Africa to Perfecta Capital, Perfectus Capital, to Axioms, also to Best 3 Minutes, and also Rain Magazine and Seedworks, and every one of us who has taken part in making this Resilient Africa Week a success. I thank you. Please join us in our LinkedIn group for more discussions, and have a good day. See you. Please keep safe, and thank you.